you for coming on out today.
It's always a pleasure, man, and welcome to the Russell Center. I got our executive director, our leader in the house.
Yes, sir.
So no, brother, I'm honored to be here.
Well, Jay, I just wanted to start off. This is a new series. We'll start off with the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. The name is Brother to Brother.
Okay, I like it.
And as we begin, I just wanted to just say a few questions just out of my post to you. So who is Jay Bailey?
Wow. Jay Bailey's changing, brother. I think that, you know that I'm wearing the shirt to represent my daughter, Sage. I'm a girl dad now, and I think so much of who Jay Bailey is has changed with fatherhood. And so when you start talking about what's important, priorities, where my passions lie, there's been so much focus on what legacy really means. And I think that legacy is kind of the driving force that's keeping me going forward. I'm the kid that's from Decatur. I started my first business at 12, bought my first house at 19, made my first million at 23. Didn't have good money role models. Went from living in a 10,000 square foot home at 26, 27 to being homeless, literally at 28, going from there to a 9x9 storage unit on Mountain Industrial Boulevard in Tucker, taking showers at the LA Fitness on La Vista Road.
Wow.
4 years after that, I'm helping to run a $30 million nonprofit organization in 10 countries. But for now, the passion is entrepreneurship, and it always has been. And so for me to be able to continue the legacy of one of the greatest entrepreneurs this city has ever produced, here at the Russell Center, the largest center in the world dedicated to growing, scaling, and developing Black businesses, brother, I'm just living a very charmed and blessed life. So when you talk about who Jay Bailey is, man, I'm a dad, I'm a son, I'm a father, but I'm also a lover of our community, and I love our people, and that's really what matters.
Yes.
People that love our people, that's who I am.
No, thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that we could connect on is the fact that part of my journey back to the 100 is I say we are the protectors of the family and children of Atlanta.
Come on, man.
And with you being a father, I know you are a protector not only for your family, but your wife and your daughter, but of this community. And if you could speak to what that means to you to be a protector here at the here at the Russell Center and what we are doing here on the West Side, what does that mean to you as a protector?
I think that part of my responsibility is to get our community to see value in its own reflection again. We are powerful beyond measure. And I think to create safe spaces for our community to convene, to undergird our self-esteem, self-confidence, belief, create the kind of space that makes a person walk in and feel nothing but possibility. This pandemic will end. We're in the middle of some of the tightest racial tension that we felt in years. And post-pandemic, our community is going to need more than just symbols of hope. We're going to need institutions that manufacture it at scale. The 100 is an example of an institution that's been here for decades, manufacturing hope at scale. We want to do the very same. So when you start talking about being a protector of the community, it's about creating spaces where people feel protected, feeling like they belong, and creating a lane for them to live whatever dignified life they choose.
No, thank you for saying that. So one of the things that I like to get into, I love the fact that you have your girl dad shirt on. And as we all said here, we all have daughters.
Surely.
So the one question I would love to ask you is that, I know your mom has gone on to heaven.
Yes.
So when, how has this process been? And when you look at your daughter, how does that, your heart and spirit feel with your mother being present here with you? With your daughter?
It was the toughest thing, a lot of quiet nights. Knowing who my mother was and knowing that she would never hold my daughter. Seeing and kind of feeling some of her energy through her. But then also when I talked about in the beginning, like I'm so focused on legacy, and I have no illusion that we're going to live forever. And I think that that loss has contributed to a lot of who I am. Not only my mother, but burying all my grandparents, my college sweetheart, a number of family members, first cousins, very close friends that I grew up with. And so it's given me this very earthed perspective about life and what's our role while we've got this small dash in between our two dates, right?
Yes.
And so with mom, it's literally about, okay, what can I do to ensure that my life impacts 7 generations yet unborn? Many people have heard my personal motto of plant seeds that will grow trees whose shade you may never sit under. And I live by that. Like, what am I doing right now to ensure that my life has relevance for generations I'm never going to meet? And so my mom was always a philanthropist, always a servant, never made over $37,000 a year, but you wouldn't tell it. She was always giving, always in the community, always over achieving in the space of helping others. And she put that in me. I saw it firsthand.
Yes.
And so I hope that I'm able to continue that legacy and be that example for my daughter and my daughter to her future generations. So it's a perfect story, brother, of, you know, the impressions and the power that a parent has through their presence. My mom and I never really talked about philanthropy. I'd never heard the word before, but she was definitely the first philanthropist that I had ever met. And so much of what she did, I learned through her actions, not her words. And I think when you start talking about presence, that lives with you forever. What I saw, what I felt, more than anything that was said, she certainly helped me become the person I am today, even though she wasn't here. You know, it's kind of hard when you get to that point where you live more years without a person than with them. And when we crossed that threshold, it was really looking at how deep those lessons were ingrained that they stay with me even still today.
So one of the philosophies I really like about Eastern culture that I've learned, you know, my studies in India and other places, is the fact that the spirit is still here. That person is still here.
Amen. I cannot deny that, brother. Sometimes I feel like she's on my neck too.
She
so
is.
Millie Bailey, I hear you. Yeah.
No, and you know, that's just been something that's been on my heart since I've seen your transition to fatherhood. You know, for me, I sat back and I was like, you know, man, you know, I just always known the presence that your mother had in the community and who she was for you personally. And you know, you told several stories about her and the many sons she has in the community that still that she's influenced to today. And you know, I just like, you know, it's those quiet moments for you and Blaine to just be in your home, to be with your daughter, and to transcend all the legacy in which would be fed into her in the spirit. I think that is very powerful. And that goes into the project that I've seen you do now of purchasing the land. Is it Eatonton, Georgia?
Oh, brother, I'm trying to get it all. It's,
okay.
I think that one of the whispers when you talk about they're still present, my namesake, James Bailey, my grandfather, one of the things that he used to whisper in my ear is, baby, they ain't making no more land. And so about 2.5 years ago, my wife and I made our first purchase of 185 acres. I caught the bug, man, closely and quietly. We're over 2,300 acres that we own currently.
Beautiful.
And it's part of my legacy that I want to leave to others, that I think it's ridiculous that black people created the agrarian economy. I'm a firm believer that all wealth comes from the dirt. There's nothing that you own or possess right now that didn't at some point come out of the dirt. But black people own less than 1% of the dirt in America. So how can we ever come up with a comprehensive wealth strategy if we don't own any of the basic construct? So I am very soon, brother, going to launch a personal endeavor to really look at how do I create 5,000 new black landowners of 50 acres or more in 5 years. It started, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't one of those people just kind of standing on stages talking about what we should do. I wanted to take the arrows. I wanted to learn the lessons. I wanted to be able to do it myself so I could show you what I've done rather than just talk about what we need to do. And so away we went, man. So I've learned a lot along the way. I've taken a lot of L's and a lot of bruises, but we've had some tremendous wins as well. But when we start talking about legacy and land,
Yes.
it's the type of thing where, I want to be able to pass this down to Sage.
Yes.
I want to tell the story. I don't want to tell the story. I want somebody at some point in the future talk about, oh yeah, our family's had this land for over 200 years. I want that sentence to be said by somebody that is in my lineage.
Yes.
And so, and I want that for other families as well. There is no feeling like walking out on the property and being able to walk for a full day and still be on land that you own. It's something I want to share with a lot of people.
That's a blessing. So I know when I went through my journey of, healing myself, I got into gardening.
My man.
And then we owned 2 big plots when we were in Charlotte. And I think putting my hands in the dirt or the earth was one of the most healing things that I've ever had to experience in life.
Yep.
And I didn't make that connection ever before until I went through this process. So I'm asking you, I know you got the land and everything, but have you had a chance to put your hands in the dirt?
Oh, I've been doing that for a while, man. I'm a city boy with country roots. I'm straight from the deck. Make no mistake, Glenwood Road, Columbia Drive. But my summers I spent in Putnam County, Eatonton, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up with my hands in the dirt. My dad and I have been cattle farming for the past, 20 some odd years. He's always had a green thumb. We've always had a garden. That was just the way things were. Mm-hmm. And so I agree with you, brother. When you literally get silent and be still and reconnect with the earth and really understand the power of the soil. I agree, brother. It's one of the most freeing, most empowering things that you can do.
That's a blessing. I know for us, we were intentional. We purchased our home here in historic West End.
I got to get over there, bro.
You got to come over.
I'm saying like this. This is the future right here.
It
Absolutely,
is.
my man.
It is. And I know for us, it was a blessing because the house was not loved well. And one of the things that we experienced was that it was loved well in the sense that the structure was sound.
Sure.
But it had holes, it had mold, it had all this stuff. But it had been a place of healing for a lot of students because it was actually a group home for 15 years. It was called Lost and Found.
Wow.
For gay and transgender homeless youth.
Wow.
So, my wife, I follow her instincts.
Come on, man.
So,
Smart man.
and she was, yes, it is. And she was like, one said, this is it.
Yeah.
And we just had to make the travel to get it. But I think the most interesting thing we experienced was that it was priced close to $450,000.
Wow.
And we were able
even
to,
unloved.
Even unloved.
Yeah.
But we were able to get it for $100,000 less than that.
Come on, bro.
And it was just the blessings of God that we had. And how that worked was that what most people don't understand is when you have the 10-day due diligence, you go and you get all your contractors and everything in there to find out what's wrong with it, and then that becomes public record.
There you go.
And for me, going through this experience here on the West End was that it was really interesting to see that the first people that came to be nosy about it were people that didn't look like us.
Come on, brother.
And they didn't even think that we were the owners at first.
Come on.
Because I was out there working in the yard with my essays, getting it together. So I think when I hear you acquiring land, building your legacy, what are some of the aha moments that you have through that process that you can share with us?
Wow, I have certainly had some of those moments. So like, how's the work going over there? Does the owner ever come down here? I don't know. I've seen him around. It's I don't know, brother. I think that we are. I think a level of courage is needed for our generation to step out and break some boundaries. Because what you did in the West End doesn't necessarily make sound parental sense, right? Mm-hmm. You can hear your mother or father saying something like, why would you go and buy that old broke down, run down house, right?
That's right.
But that house means something for so many different reasons. Not only is it about the home that you're building, it's about a reclaiming of a legacy in an area that means so much to our community. I think that an importance needs to be focused on our generation's reclaiming of community. Unfortunately, brother, I think one of the only value-add propositions for success in our community is how far you can move away from it. And how do we lead this charge of this great reclamation of our culture, of our spaces, of our community, of our identity. And I think that along the way, I've developed a very strong sense of who I am and who we are collectively. Ubuntu is, I am because we are. And it means something to me now because I understand my role in community, but how community, I am nothing without my community. And what can we do to strengthen the community? So those aha moments, man, have all been around. How do we level up? Sure, we own a significant amount of land, but what does that really mean if all of my friends don't own any? And so it's a motto and a mantra that I try to live by, man. I think individual wealth is wasted. If I can't show 10 other people that I love and care about a pathway to have their own definition of wealth through some of the things that I've learned, then what have I really gained? That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over this time, brother, that what you have done is not necessarily yours. That what you have accomplished is not necessarily yours. What you've achieved is not necessarily yours. It has to be shared. It has to be brought to the community. That's how we've always worked throughout history. It's what we got to get back to.
Correct. No, thank you for sharing that. That's very, very important. I'm sure brothers would definitely love to hear that. One thing that I like to revisit, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I knew you in your days before you got married.
Cut this, we need to.
But I would say, no one really knows your love story. And I would just say, if you don't mind sharing about how Blaine came in and swept you off your feet.
Indeed, she
I'm
did.
Sure it's the other way around.
Surely.
She tells the story, but if you could just kind of tell that journey to love, I think it'd be great for brothers to hear that and for us to share that, man.
It was the mayor's ball And Blaine had just got hired in Atlanta at 11 Alive at the time. She didn't know anybody. 11 Alive had sent her to the dinner to kind of meet people and go around. Somehow, coincidentally, she had been on a panel with one of my team members. And she was trying to meet people. It's like, oh, if you want to meet people, you got to meet my boss, Jay. You know, he's great. He'll introduce you to folks. You know, there's a 10-year age difference with this as well. So Blaine at the time was 25 and I was 35. So I kind of saw her as a little sister, a kid. Yeah. And so, you know, she laughs in that our first kind of lunch, you know, she was saying, hey, we should get together, whatever else. And I asked my assistant to set up lunch with her, and it was so impersonal because I just saw her in this lens. It's funny. And but there was one day I had to go to this gala. I bought these really expensive tickets to go, to be in the room. And I just slipped my mind. I didn't have anybody to go with. And so at the last minute, I was like, well, what woman can I reach out to who in a moment's notice can put it all together, be ready to go? Oh yeah, the news girl. Let me call the news girl. She wasn't even blamed to me at that point. So I called her, as fate would have it, man. She was supposed to be whitewater rafting that day, but that got canceled and she was available. So we go to this event and we have the best time. At this really stuffy, high-level, howdy-toady event. We were just laughing and making jokes under the table, and it was a beautiful way to show that, you know, although in serious spaces, we could see life through a laughter's lens. And so from there, man, we just started to kick it and go out. And you know, it was there was a time where we went to this other event I'll never forget. So if Chrisette Michelle, if you listen to this, we owe you a lot. Chrisette Michelle was playing as she parked, or as I was parked dropping her off. She tricked me. I was driving away, and she pulled the old "I left my keys in your truck" routine. So as I came back, man, we had our first kiss. Yes. And from there, we were just friends. And I think that's a beautiful piece about it, brother. We have a deep friendship that transcends just your traditional love. And you know, from there, my proposal to her when I knew that I needed her to be my wife, I proposed to her in Charleston, did this really elaborate proposal kind of scheme, because she's a reporter, man. Yeah. So she's inquisitive, she's nosy as hell, she's gonna dig into everything. And so I had to set up a fake event. I had to call the United Way in Charleston. I had to call a mentor in Pittsburgh. We set up a fake website, a fake event with flyers and the whole nine, because she thought I was going to speak at this event. Yes. And we went out on a boat. We're on the Charleston Bay, and I lied to her. I said, "Babe, there is no speaking engagement. This is our engagement." And proposed to her right there on the bow of a, I don't know, 60-foot yacht in Charleston. But we have had an incredible love story up until this point. Pastor Warnock, who married us, shared with us that there will be a ministry of your marriage. And that has stayed with us, man. And we tried to make the most of our union, not just to ourselves, but how can we impact others around us? So no, in love with that girl, in love with what we're building together. It's a powerful thing when you find a partner that understands aspiration, that believes in you, that's not afraid to share that, that's vulnerable enough to learn, can laugh at themselves, and really doesn't even see divorce as an option. So we're really going as hard as we possibly can. Is it perfect? Hell no. But are we doing our very best to make our lives work? And yeah, man, away we go. So this story, we're 5 years in. Check me with the follow-up interview in 5 years, see how we're doing after then.
And maybe 2 or 3.
Come on, brother, we'll see. We'll see. We ain't gonna stop practicing.
No, that's good. One of the things I learned, you know, I was divorced in my first marriage, and then getting married to Adrian, was that I didn't realize that marriage was a business. And that's one of the things that she brought to it. So during my healing stage, I went on. She was like, look, first thing she asked me for, she was like, what's your credit score? I was like, my credit score looked like a GPA.
Come on, bro.
I was like yourself, I had suffered homelessness, had gone through my divorce. I was financially devastated. And so I was afraid to show her that as a man. And she was like, but I need to see that, because what I didn't realize that from her perspective, most perspective of women and sisters, they're looking for, can he take safety, stability, and looking for someone to take, you know, to build with. And I didn't have that in my first marriage. I got it in this one. So when I think of marriage as a business. How do I know you've grown this Rice Center and you've done great things in your life.
Sure.
So how can you speak to us with how you and Blaine work as a business to work for it? Because I know that's one thing me and Adrian do. We have our weekly meetings. We take care of, we look at the finance, we forecast, things I've never done before because I didn't have the training for my family to do that.
Yep.
So I had to learn those steps along the way as a man to get to that point. But I know anytime we're either coaching other couples or working with them, we always talk about marriage as a business, and it always seems foreign to people of color when we're with them, with our own people. Other people get it, but when we're talking to our own people, it always seems like that's the furthest thing. And it also seems like the most scariest thing to show is to be naked financially with someone.
Oh, bro, you have to be. And I think I come with a different perspective, bro. I've been broke. I mean, like dead broke, homeless, no money in the bank, right? And I think that level of vulnerability and that level of reality is kind of taking that scab away. I'm fearless in that way. I can be completely transparent because I've been at the bottom.
Yes.
How much farther can I fall?
Yeah.
And so I think that works for Blaine and I because I think that, I'm a risk taker. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not afraid to put it all in one turn of pitch and toss, right?
Okay.
And so she's not necessarily that. She's more risk averse.
Yeah.
She kind of grew up in a household that was like, okay, keep it here. A little bit of money in the savings account, a little bit of money for this. And so our styles blend very, very well.
Good.
But I love that we have an annual retreat. First day of the new year, we are with our laptops open, spreadsheets open, talking about how we're going to take on the new year. We have family meetings, even when it was just the two of us. Now it'll be the three of us. But we have family meetings, or we say, I don't understand how this works. Can we schedule a family meeting? And we sit down and talk about the numbers of things. One of the greatest things is we bought that first 185 acres. I thought it would be a long shot. But when I came down to her, and she was in Australia at the time, I believe, covering something in Australia. And I called her. I said, babe, I found this piece of dirt that I have to buy. And she, said, let's look at the numbers. But, more than anything else, she said, baby, I believe in you. Let's go do it. Let's do it. And in that let's do it together, when you start talking about a business, I'm a firm believer in business. If you don't understand the self-esteem, self-confidence, the belief, the anxiety, the depression, the loneliness that goes along with running a business, the whole entrepreneur, the whole picture, you don't really understand business. And I think when you talk about marriage as a business, you got to put all those emotions into it as well, brother. Yes. All the baggage you carry into it, all the anxiety, all the depression, all the things that you're nervous about, scared about. If you're only looking at the spreadsheet and not talking about that piece, you're not looking at the whole picture. And I think we do a really good job of looking at the whole picture. We do a really good job of being vulnerable and saying we just don't understand. We don't know. I think we are pretty good at sharing where we need areas and where we need help. And I think that vulnerability makes our business run very well because there's a certain level of transparency that exists that allows us to have real talk and kind of cut through some of the 3 months, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years of kind of skating on the surface. And let's get down to what's really happening. And once you get down to what's really happening, that's where the magic happens.
So one of the things I admire about you is that you've been able to have this life where you've adjusted, and you've also not only adjusted, but you've had a certain learning curve in life to bring you out of those spaces. We've known each other for a while, and I always want, and for those of you that don't know, it was Jay Bailey who actually helped me get into the C-suite when I left United Way into Operation Hope, and I want to say thank you for that because that was a uplift, my man. And I'll always be grateful for you for that.
Of course.
And I just want to just say that in seeing that transition, everyone wants to ask, like, how do you get where you are? What did you do? What are the top 3 things you would say if you could go back to your 18-year-old self, your 25-year-old self, and then I'll say your 40-year-old self?
Yeah.
What would be some things that you would say? Take a little bit to think about that.
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I think that one of the great epiphanies I had, and one of the things that I think fundamentally changed everything for me, is when I got really comfortable in my own skin and stopped trying to be impressive. I think I spent a lot of time worrying about how you would perceive me, or how the world would perceive me, or what I could do to be perceived here. And I think in that you lose a certain degree of authenticity and you lose a bit of yourself. Trying to be, and I think with social media that gets exponentially grown. And this was at a time where there was no social media, right? But now social media has taken that and lifted it to the stratosphere. You can do things that are impressive, but the pursuit of being impressive is the thing that I learned most. I think that what I'd also say is you can't do it by yourself. Find your tribe. I think as black men, we oftentimes get I just think it's a mistake when we start talking about, self-made man, do it yourself. You don't need anybody but you and yourself. Don't trust anyone. Mm-hmm. And these are the messages that we often get as black men. So we kind of isolate ourselves because as a man, I'm supposed to be able to handle it on my own. That leads to depression. That leads to unhealthy relationships. That leads to, issues with intimacy and everything else. And I think I was taught that. I definitely was taught that. Mm-hmm. That a man stands on his own. He doesn't need people around him. If you can't handle it by yourself, you're not a man. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if I could go back to that 18-year-old, even when I pledged my fraternity, that was a little different to kind of bring in guys and hold them close. That was kind of the first, although I grew up with all of my friends, we had a really bravado kind of way of dealing with the streets and in the streets and playing. And it was kind of like man on man, man versus man. But brother, it's you need your people. Mm-hmm. And you got to love your people hard, and you got to keep those circles very close. And if life has taught me anything at 45, if I'm talking to 18, 25, and 40, did you say, those people may not always be around. So love them hard right now. And the last is be authentic. I think we cut through a lot of the BS that we deal with in life because we're being less than authentic. We are not presenting our truest self. We're not using our truest words. Our intentions are oftentimes jaded or costumed by fear, apprehension, worrying about what your response may be. And I think that being authentic and present is one of the things that I live by now, brother. So, those three I think is Jay, quit trying to be impressive. Love your people hard and keep your circles together. And then when you start talking about being present and authentic, if I could pass that down to 18-year-old Jay, certainly 25-year-old Jay. Yes. Who knows, we'd be having this conversation right now. It might be on a private jet somewhere. But brother, it's those would be the three. I mean, it's a deep question. I appreciate you asking it. Yes. But I think those are the three that come to mind that I would have loved to take a time machine and go talk to little Jay about what he needed to do and what he didn't need to do, for sure.
Yes. All right, two more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So this next one is, I'm glad you talked about the frat. And I think what most people don't understand, especially if you've never been through a fraternal order, sure, or a process like that, what did it mean for you to come with, if I'm not mistaken, you have 4 other line brothers, right?
3 or 4 others total.
That's 4 total, that's what it is. Yeah. And so to have these different individuals come into your life at that age. Wow. Yeah. So what was that? You kind of hinted it right here. You said holding someone close and sharing things. So what was that process when you think about that process then? And what does that process mean to you today at 45 and applying it to business and applying it to your life?
A lot of fights. I think that the 4 of us are super close. And so there's close to brothers that I would assume that blood would be. And I think that level of trust and that level of breaking down walls that I put up over years, bad conditioning, bad things that were taught to me, etc. The process enabled me to break those walls down and really let people in. But it took me a little while to do that. It took me a long time through the process, much to our detriment on many a night, right? To really be vulnerable enough to trust these 3 other brothers. And I think that hard road to trust and family is the reason that we're so close. We were talking at like 2 a.m. this morning, just via text and email. I think that part kind of, it influences my second answer of your last question, that you need people. And I think there was also another period of my life where I lost that lesson as well, right after I lost my mother, and that period where I was, making money and doing all of these things, and I just kind of isolated myself, brother. By the world standards, I've been successful, but I had zero significance, and I certainly didn't have people in my circle. I had pushed everybody away. So no, the fraternity for me, man, has been this lifelong pursuit of excellence. But I think that excellence is rooted in not what we could do, but who we are to each other. And I just want to be more of an excellent brother every day to the people that I care most about. And so much of that love has been returned to me, brother. So it was a great gift at the right time. And you know, I'll always be indebted to our chapter for who they may help me become, for sure. But no, man, that is one thing that I will always cherish, our process. But you know, as many people say, the pledging doesn't start until after you cross, right?
Yes.
That has been the experience, and I think every year we grow closer, or we learn something, or we find a new way to be supportive. Just this weekend, I asked my number 3, Tavares Stevens, to be the godfather of my daughter, and that was just Saturday. And so, you know, I'm the godfather to his daughter, and so it's a real relationship.
Yes.
It is real and it's authentic. And, you know, I had never had the kind of fights that I had with them, like physical, put hands on, out of love. Like, you know, when I was growing up, if you got into a fight, you know, it's because I don't really like you.
Yeah.
To fight somebody because you love them so much that you want the best up from them, and they're not showing their best, and it frustrates you to the point that you want to choke them out, it's a different kind of love, man. And to be able to go from that fight to saying, man, I love you, and going and stealing a sandwich from the cafeteria because you're starving. I had never experienced that, man. It was kind of an unconditional type of love between people that weren't blood related, that was powerful for me. And I still benefit every day from that process and those people.
No, thank you for sharing that. So what can we expect from Jay Bailey? Let's say, you know, is there anything you can share with us and share with our audience here that, you know, one thing, you know, don't have to be any secret, but it's something that you can share with us that you may see on the horizon coming up soon.
Sure. I mean, I think that what you see out here is real, man. I think Atlanta has the opportunity to do something great. Before I took this job, I had made a very strong promise to my wife that I'd never get another job again, that I was going to be an entrepreneur, that I was going to start another business. We started a logistics company until this opportunity came along. And there's just very few times in life where you get to be a part of something that you know will outlast you. There are even rare moments where you get to be a part of something that could potentially change the course of history. And I think we're in one of those moments. If you see right across the street, that white steeple is Spelman. As you know, Morehouse, Clark, Atlanta, ITC, Morehouse School of Medicine. To our direct east, we've got Castleberry Hill, one of the largest collections of black businesses in the country. Georgia Tech is 2 miles down the road. Georgia State is a mile away. We got more black enrolled college students in Atlanta than any other place on the planet. I spent some time out in Silicon Valley. A lot of our partners come out of that way. MIT, Harvard, everything in Cambridge, Research Triangle, Duke, UNC, love what they're doing in Asheville, Miami, Austin, Texas. None of them have made innovation inclusive. None of them have gotten diversity right. And I think in Atlanta, we're uniquely positioned, not only with the ingenuity, the know-how, and the talent base, we also got the real estate. This could become the type of innovation district the world's never seen before. And I think part of our role as the Russell Center is to help spur and be a conduit for a whole lot of that energy to be released into the marketplace globally, because I think Atlanta is going to see a quantum leap over the next 5 to 10 years in our relevance to the marketplaces around the country. Our economy is going to drive global economies. You know, for me also, it's about land ownership. It's about how can I make sure that I'm sharing what I've learned. How can I get 5,000 new black people to own 50 acres or more in 5 years? How can I teach and share and create pathways for people to be able to do that? I think everything that you're going to see from me in the next 5 years is about not only legacy building personally, but how can I share a bit of that legacy building with others? That includes from commerce through entrepreneurship and small business growth and development to ownership as a basic construct of how we rebuild and how we reclaim legacy. So yeah, man, it's all about generations we ain't never gonna meet. I mean, I'm really fixated now that I want to be a really dope great-great-great-granddad. Don't know who that kid is, but I want my life to have some relevance to whoever that kid's going to be because of what I put in place today.
No, that makes sense. So at 45, what do you know for sure?
Wow. What at 45? What do I know for sure? I know 46 ain't guaranteed. So what am I doing with 45, 3 months and 27 days? And what's my plan for the 28th day? That love is real, and that you can depend on people. So yeah, brother, it's living every day. People say cliche, live every day as if it's your last. But it's wise words, man. And I think that we've got to make the most of this time that we have here. We've got to make it count. And so at 45, I really plan to make it count. And I hope I do the same at 46 and every year beyond.
Yes.
My man.
Peace and blessings, brother. Thank you for your gift of time today.